I know. You guys are probably looking at the title and going, "Oh my God, Alex, what's going on? What's going on with Model 3? Is the production slow? Is there some sort of a problem with the battery?" No. No, there's nothing wrong with the Model 3. They're doing pretty good. But here's the problem that I'm talking about. What I'm worried about, and this is the problem I think that might happen in the next year or two, is the Model 3 sales. And you're going to be going like, "Oh, wait, Alex, are you insane? There's 500,000 people waiting to buy the damn car, and they're only making it at like 1,000 cars per week." And granted, this year is going to be great. Trust me, there's no doubt about it. But I'm looking forward to the next few years, because don't forget, once this whole thing is ramped up, they're going to be making over 200,000 these Model 3s per year, which is more than double of what they're making Model S's and X's together. So bear with me here, because this is something I talked about yesterday, right? Because and that number seemed a little odd to me, but think about it and follow me here. So the amount of people that reserved there were about over 100,000 reservations for the Model 3 in the first year. Now, not all of them were in the United States, and not all of them were Tesla owners, but even when we think about like maybe 30 to 35,000 were the Tesla owners who lived here in the United States. All right, we also need to probably understand that a lot of people made 2 reservations instead of 1. So how many households are really on the list? And even if we go down to 20 to 30,000 in the first day, you know, and we also know that they sold maybe what, 3 to 5,000 right now that were delivered. That is a very low percentage of how many people could be getting that, and how many people actually did, and most importantly, how many people actually didn't. And I started wondering, well, are they having problems with sales? And then I was thinking, like, you know, even if it's 1/3 of people who decided to get the more expensive one, and 2/3 are holding out for $35,000 version, I think it's still pretty much okay, right? But here's the thing. Now we know that most people are most likely, and this is the case with almost everybody I know and everybody that I see on my Facebook Model 3 and Model S communities, most people are holding out for the $35,000 version, which is really why I think people put the reservations down. That's what they're expecting, a $35,000, maybe $40,000 version car. Well, here's the thing. At least here in California, same thing with New York and a lot of other major cities where in America, where Tesla is very popular, and that's where most of the deliveries are going to be happening. Here, if you can afford a $35,000 car but cannot really afford a $50,000 car, you're most likely living in an apartment or a condo. And here's a problem. I've talked about it a while back, but this is why I think no one's talking about it. But the problem is, there is no charging stations, dedicated charging stations, and 99.99% of apartment complexes and condos. Now, don't forget, condos are parts of HOAs. And when a lot of people are trying to get a commitment from their HOA to allow them to install a charging station in their condo or apartment, they cannot get it because HOA goes like, you know what, we don't want to mess with electricity. And so those people end up not having at-home charging. Now, I know some people who have done this, you know, and they do it every day or every other day. And my girlfriend actually had a kind of experience like that. Her company had to have her on training for 5 days on the other side of the Bay Area, so they rented a hotel for her, so she stayed there for a few days, and she had to supercharge a couple of times because, you know, she had to drive around to clients. Well, she said, listen, you know, a couple of times I stood in, went in traffic. It took a while to get there. Once I get there, there was a line. Then I have to supercharge for 45 minutes. I have to drive back. I don't want to do this every 2-3 days. And by the way, this is not just a Tesla's problem. This is going to be a problem for Chevy Bolts and Nissan Leafs and companies that are coming out with the cars that electric cars with regardless what range it is. Because no one wants to do this. No one wants to be going out there and charging somewhere else, even if it's at your job, because, you know, what happens if you change your jobs? Now, we're talking about Tesla Model 3 with a supercharging network. I mean, forget about other manufacturers who don't have a solution. So there is a problem that I think Tesla Model 3 is going to be the first one to face once they ramp up the production. Because, you know, let's face it, if people have $30,000 to $40,000 to spend on an electric car, and there is no big wait for those cars in 1 or 2 years, they're going to pick a Model 3. I mean, I think that's a reasonable, most people, okay, reasonable assumption. So where are they going to charge? Now, I live in an apartment complex, so I was lucky that they installed a Tesla charger specifically for me. Very lucky. I wanted to actually move a year ago, and I went all over the Bay Area here, San Francisco, San Jose, everywhere, trying to find one apartment complex, one condominium complex that will have a dedicated charging stations. Could not find a single one, and they weren't even willing to even consider that. They were like, wow, we don't know anything about it. And I'm telling you guys, this is a problem. Even the brand new ones, I went to the ones that are like literally just opened their doors a week before I acquired. Nothing. I think this is what is going to happen. The infrastructure cannot just be superchargers or like destinations. I know, you know, Tesla's building out destination chargers like this, but this cannot be the solution. People do not want to drive there every few days if you're in a Tesla, and pretty much sometimes every day or every other day if you own other cars with a, you know, smaller range, to charge their cars. They're just too much time out of their work. You know, this is more time in your car, and I think this is going to be a problem. So once Tesla starts ramping up, once they're making all these cars, once Model 3 is flying off the shelf, but there is no real line, I think this is something that Tesla and other car manufacturers are going to have to start worrying about, because this is not going to do the trick either. They're going to get filled up really quick, even with Model 3 drivers having to pay for it. It is already, and you know, Tesla has not filled up their commitment last year to build enough of the superchargers. They wanted to double their amount, and they only went about 75% in. So they're behind on that one as well. Let me know in the chat room, by the way, if you're watching in the replay, if you don't have a charger at home right now and you either have or thinking about getting an electric car, what is it that's your solution? And Mr. Tech Freak 95 is already chiming in. He says, I drive a Zoe, Renault Zoe, and I have no home charger. 3-phase charging. FTW always charge when I go to shops or go for my run in the park. So I'm going to assume that part of your life is consumed about where I'm going. It's like I always say, it's like a drug addict kind of a mentality, right? Where I'm going to get the next fix, where I'm going to get juiced up, right? I mean, I'm not trying to compare you particularly to a drug addict. I'm just saying that there's a constant worry you have to have that a lot of people don't want to deal with. I think there's only so many people who are willing to be the first adopters or that much excited about electric cars that they're willing to actually deal with it, like you and I. Gene Phipps in the chat room says apartment complexes and condos will be falling all over themselves once EVs are catching on. Heavy charging will become a peak, and then here's the problem. So there are two types of complexes, right? One, the existing ones that will have to start installing electric car parking spots that are dedicated. And the problem with that is that, as you, I don't know how much people know about the planning, city planning, but there's only so much the electricity sometimes is just dedicated to a particular building. Now, you know, charging is a lot of energy, especially a lot at the same time. And this is not something that's easy to get. You have to go and get a, you know, planning departments in your city to get it approved. There might be not enough electricity lines going or power going to your complex. Once everyone's going to start getting it, it's going to become an infrastructure problem, which I don't think we're ready for. And the new apartment complexes are going to have to take their time to get built once they realize there's a problem. Now, I know we're going to solve it sooner or later with solar panels and a lot of other, but I think by the time Model 3, in another year or maybe even year and a half, is the reservations have subsided, there's a less of a line, and to the point where we actually have that infrastructure, I think there will be a problem with sales, because who are they going to be selling them to? Everybody else who can afford a Tesla and has a house, at least around here and many other major metropolitan areas, they're going to opt out for the Model S or a Model X. So I think I'm telling you, this is probably going to be the biggest Model 3 problem that has nothing to do with an actual Model 3. Anyone not willing to put up a charging station for apartment complex owners are going to lose out with those looking to move. DRK in the chat room, well, you know what? Every single one of them that I talked to, and I think there were about 50 to 60, didn't give a crap. They did not say, they were like, well, yeah, you know, we're okay. You know, you have to understand right now, every here in the Silicon Valley, in Los Angeles and many other cities, the occupancy up, you know, there's no, they don't have a problem filling the place up with regular people with gas cars. So that's why they're not really that concerned. DRK says, here in Atlanta, I visited an urban apartment building that was being built, and EV charging was one of the features they were going to have. And I'm assuming that's great, but I'm telling you, there's just not going to be enough with 20,000 extra Model S's made every month, and plus Chevy Bolts and Nissan Leafs and many other electric cars are coming out this year. I think this is going to be an infrastructure problem, and I think Model 3 might take the biggest hit. Let's see. It's no harder than adding a swimming pools or similar perks or no. I don't think so. I think running a major addition to your electric output is going to be a problem. And it's going to be a problem with the city and an infrastructure. Don't forget, it's not like just one apartment complex in the middle of the city will need it. There will be others around it. There will be stores that want to get it. There will be houses around the area that will need to get it as well. Probably installing solar panels and battery packs in their building is probably going to be the answer. But it's going to take a while is what I'm saying. All right, guys. By the way, just wanted to remind you that this video and this channel is sponsored by Evanex, your aftermarket accessories for your Teslas. If you're looking to shop there, don't forget to check out the description of this video where you will find the discount code that they specifically gave to this community. Let's move on to the comment of the day. You know, the comment of the day is still about the topic of that Tesla smashing in the fire truck because, you know, and again, this is not confirmed, but everyone's assuming that, hey, either the autopilot or the crash avoidance system should have figured it out and at least slow the car down. Now, looks like it smashed it at the truck at 65 miles per hour. So, but we don't know. But this raises a lot of questions that we already kind of know the answers to because the autopilot right now, in any, not just Tesla's autopilot, any self-driving technology, they have a dilemma. They have to ignore stationary objects, right? Whether they're parked cars, whether they're buildings, overpasses, just, you know, storage containers, because otherwise, if there's a false negative once in a while, your car is going to slam on the brake in the middle of driving, and you're probably going to get rear-ended, right? And nobody wants that to happen. So they have to kind of go all the way on the other side where they're going to ignore a lot of stationary objects. And I think this is something that might happen if this is not get resolved. Now, the comment of the day is actually Alan Helton is asking, would the LiDAR have made a difference? I believe the answer is no. Don't forget, LiDAR is just a technology that can see a 3D imaging in a very precise manner, right? And just seeing that object, which I'm sure in this case the radar was able to see easily, they wouldn't have made any difference because I believe if, in this case what happened, it was being ignored as a stationary object. Now, I still would like to know, you know, whether the freeway was curving, whether the car just changed the lanes into this lane and so it didn't have a chance to register a new lane and what's happening down that lane. You know, a lot of this stuff is coming out. But I don't think that's the last time we're going to hear about it because it is something how this technology works. Now, of course, we need to figure out, you know, or this technology needs to figure out whether or not it understands what is the next 5 to 10 seconds of the road looks like and what is part of that road and what is not part of the road, and at least understand whether or not you're just about to crash. Now, I get those warnings sometimes when the road curves and there's a parked car here, and I get that warning. My car doesn't slam on the brakes, but nevertheless I do. So it is there, but I think this is going to be really hard to fine tune. I still don't know the answers to that, but I think this is something that we're going to have to deal with. And we and the whole industry for a while until they figure it out. Maybe because once the infrastructure is there and all the roads and lanes are mapped out, all the maps are in 3D, and maybe even cars are communicating with each other. But still, I think this is kind of I don't think it's a Tesla problem. I think it's just overall technology problem, and I don't really know what the answer for that is. Who will solve the infrastructure problem, says Ben Pina in the chat room. I think it has to be partially government and partially free enterprise. I think a lot of people will need to make a case that they want to live in an apartment complex and they want to have an electric car, and if they won't install it, they'll go somewhere else. I think that's what needs to happen. But right now here in Silicon Valley, there's just such high demand on all apartments and condos that they don't really have to. So something got to give, or somebody has to build a business around it, that maybe it's a mobile thing that kind of gets parked on a parking lot somewhere, leases an apartment complex part of the parking lot, and starts making money on charging cars. You know, just something's got to give, right? Anyone wants to start an EV station business with me? I was thinking about it, says Acash 1229. It's not a bad idea, just very expensive investment. Ben also in the chat room says there's not enough facts out there about the collision. I agree, but there is a fact that we know is that this technology has to operate within a certain context and ignore stationary objects. Now, of course, you don't want to ignore an object that's like you going right straight at, but imagine if this road was curving and this car just changed lanes, right? That might have not been enough time to recognize a stationary object that's on the way in the lane that you just switched it to. So I definitely want to keep this story up, but I definitely also wanted to mention that LiDAR would not have helped because radar could have done and did do just a good enough job to see it. Gene in the chat room says until they investigate the crash, everything is speculation. It is, but this is why I keep talking about it, because what I'm talking about has nothing to do with the crash, really. Crash is just a reason to talk about a possible shortcoming in a technology that's moving pretty quickly right now. So I thought that this topic is not so much particularly about this. I still don't know which way to point. Wow. Why can't we have battery swap faster and solves the issue of charging congestions? Absolutely 100% agree. I am really pissed off why Tesla didn't keep up with that technology. Kind of it went away, and at a Model 3, there is no way you can have a battery swap with the Model 3. I think companies that have that will actually be on top, because yes, with a battery swap, you don't have to have a charging station in an apartment complex or your house. You just have to swap it wherever, home delivery, yeah. So I think it's the greatest point of the day, really. One last one from Tony. Alex, I think that the more EVs are sold, the more pressure will be applied on governments. Yeah, so I agree. No, we'll solve this problem one way or another. I just think there will be a gap, and Tesla cannot afford having their Model 3 or any sales go down for whatever infrastructure reasons. I think you guys would agree with that. All right, guys, tomorrow, don't forget, we are going to have extended hangout. We're going to hang out. We're going to recap the entire week. We're going to talk about other CES footage that I've been releasing. There is a Genovation video yesterday that I released, and tomorrow is going to be another one about Nissan concept car called IMX and the Nissan Leaf, as I caught up with them at CES. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow, of course, and don't forget to stay charged.